Hey everyone, we are super excited to be spreading awareness and destigmatizing mental health in the Black and Brown communities.
This podcast is a safe place for us to discuss our adversities and even our shortcomings. We all have a story.
Just remember, no matter what we go through, our story goes on.
Welcome everyone. Welcome back. We are starting season 2
Yes.
of Our Story Goes On.
Yes, we are so excited to finally be back. And your girl got visuals, or your girls.
Okay, we got visuals now. So we are going to give you a little bit of what has been going on with our lives, what has been going on with the podcast, why we took so long to come back. You know, we're going to give you all the rundown of what's going on with Our Story Goes On and all the new stuff that we have going on. We're also with a new recording
producer, engineer.
Listen, we are lit this season.
Yes.
So we're so excited and so happy to be here with you guys, and we're excited that you guys are joining us and listening in. So thank you so much.
Yeah. And the great thing is that this was our vision for last season as well, was doing visuals, but it didn't work out, and we're so grateful that we have new opportunities ahead of us and a new location, all that good stuff. So yeah, let's just get right into it. Yeah. Talk a little bit about how we've been. I know that I believe season 1 ended, July? Right? Yeah. So by the time you guys hear this, it's probably been at least 6 months since season 1's finale, but we're back.
Yes, and better. So that's all that matters. That's all that matters.
Exactly.
But
so, you want to tell a little bit of an update of your life, Joe?
Yeah, so I'm graduating next month.
Clapping.
Or this month, actually.
Yes.
Because when you guys see this, it's going to be this month.
We are so proud of Josephine. I mean, it has been such a long time coming for her, but in a good way, though. I don't want to seem like she's been dragging her feet or something.
No, I've been dragging my feet, okay? It's okay to say that I've been dragging my feet. I'm like, do I really want to be in school? Like, why can't I just be a homeless bum? Sometimes I'd be like, listen, I literally just want to experience the world from, like, what is it? Pioneers? Is that what they did? The Pioneers?
Oh, what?
Wait, no, was it? No, it wasn't Pioneers.
I don't know what you're talking about, girl.
Wait, the settlers, or something like that.
The settlers?
Settlers, like when they would just settle somewhere and just use the world for like their living room and the bathroom. All right, we're not going that far, but yeah.
I think there's a movie out like that like won a bunch of Oscars, right? That there was this one person who lived out of a van and just drove everywhere. And, and something like that. I never watched it, but yes, Josephine, or Joe, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Is graduating, and that's awesome. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you so
It's going to be such a great time for you to
wait, but guys, not to cut you off, Sid, but hold on. We have to talk about my sis. Show them what happened.
Well, I got married.
Okay. Listen.
I did. So Joe was obviously part of the wedding too. Yes. And it was almost a month ago at this point since I've been married. I'm a married woman.
Yeah.
Not much has changed.
Yeah. So we weren't beating around the bush. We just had life. We just had life going on. Life was just going on.
It was very busy especially because I waited last minute to do a lot of my wedding planning because it came so quickly. I don't know what happened because we got engaged a few months before COVID, or not even a few months, like 3 months, I think, before we went into lockdown. So I would think, or you would think during the lockdown time, I would have been planning and buying stuff, but I definitely did. I literally waited 2 months before our wedding to buy everything.
She did. I came over and there was all this Amazon packages. I'm like, girl.
Oh, it was.
She was like, yeah, let's go get some spray paint.
I was literally doing our table numbers 3 days before our wedding, and it was an experience and a half. I had never been so stressed, but that was also my fault, though. I hear a lot of brides that talk about, oh, it's so stressful. And I'm like, I'm not going to be that bride. It's not going to be me. And I really wasn't until the last month because I did wait very long. And again, that was totally my fault that I waited that long. I don't know what was going through my head. it just went by so fast. Like, I'm just like, oh my God, it's September.
But you weren't a bridezilla. That was the
that
was the saving grace. Because I would have been like, Sid, take a chill pill. But she wasn't a bridezilla.
I wasn't. I just had a vision, you know?
The wedding was so beautiful.
Yeah, we had a really great time. It was definitely an amazing weekend. So
yeah. But that's all about us. Let's come back to the show now.
Right.
So what can you guys expect moving forward? We are now going to be on YouTube.
Yes.
You can see our visuals on YouTube now, which is so exciting because you guys are going to get to put the voice to the face
right.
and whatever else y'all want to do out there, you know. But Cynthia, like, what are you excited about YouTube, getting on YouTube for?
Maybe we'll be famous and we'll get money.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, yo, we could do this. We can be YouTube stars.
Exactly.
I can see the YouTube plaques now. Okay, listen.
But I mean, I'm just excited because, like I said, this is what we wanted happen last season. It just didn't work out, which is totally fine. We're grateful for season 1. We had a lot of great opportunities at that time as well. So either way, we're very excited to have been able to have that for us as well. But I'm just excited just to be on YouTube because I feel like a lot of podcasts now are doing YouTube and videos more than ever before.
Yeah.
So that was really important for us to include that because I think more people just watch videos now. They're on their phone, right? Rather than listening to a podcast. But I know for me, like when I listen to podcasts, I usually listen to it in my car. So I guess for me, I never had that vision of, oh, like let's do YouTube as well, because I usually just listen to it in my car.
Right.
But I'm only one person, obviously. I'm not everybody else. So, but I'm excited for that, especially.
Yeah, I'm like, sometimes I do like to go and see what the person's talking about, because sometimes we say something crazy on the podcast. You're like, who's saying this stuff? Like one time I watched a show and he said something about, I'm not even gonna say it, but it was an inappropriate podcast, and he said something about something, and I went on his Instagram to go look at him, and he was so funny looking. He was so funny looking, and I was just like, listen, like, you don't need to be talking about nobody's. I think he was talking about how long it takes for females to get like I guess to the point.
Okay.
To their point. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm like, how are you gonna know? How do you know? But
looks aren't everything though, Joe.
That's very true.
Some people.
That's very true. But I'm just saying, don't be talking about our body parts.
Yeah,
and not even including us in it. You know? Don't do that.
That's true. But you are right. I like to see what the person's face is to the voice. And it's so funny because usually I'm like, oh, that's what that person looks like. Mm. Their voice does not usually match their face. I shouldn't say usually, but yeah. Right?
My friend's mom told me that I sound like Wendy Williams, so
you do not sound like Wendy Williams.
She did. She told me that. I was like, are you kidding me? I really sound like her, but that's what she told me. And I'm glad I don't look like her. I'm just gonna say that. Yeah, I'm glad I don't look like her. But
no, you definitely don't sound like Wendy Williams. Yeah. I've always just been told I have a deep voice. So, but a lot of people also complimented us with audio. Like we got a lot of feedback, and a lot of people said that we did flow very well and everything. So at least there's that plus. Right.
But we are definitely gonna be keeping our little affirmations.
Yeah. So the big changes are obviously YouTube. We're obviously still going to have audio. That part isn't really going to change. We're still going to have our affirmation at the end of each episode, and we're also going to have some guests this season. Of course. But again, the biggest change is YouTube, and then obviously we're at a new location, which we're super psyched about. It's also closer to my house. It's funny because the other one was closer to Joe's house, literally right down the road, and then this one is right down the road from my house.
So we're just alternating here.
We're just alternating.
But yeah, I'm super excited about everything that's to come. Our new production. I'm just gonna call the production company. Okay, we gonna manifest for them. Okay, our new production company. Yes. I'm just excited about being on YouTube so I can look at myself like, oh my God, did I sound dumb saying that? And yeah, I'm excited about our affirmations and also about the topics that we have to discuss. Yeah, they're gonna be some good topics. Mm-hmm. Okay,
right. So we wanted to make sure. I mean, and just to shout out the production or the podcast studio is called Soundflow Elevation Network.
Yes.
So look them up.
On Instagram. Okay. On Instagram. And if you have a podcast coming up or you want something, hit them up.
Yeah, because they have a lot of good stuff. It's like podcasts and audiobooks and music, shows, a lot of good stuff. But we have like a lot of good episodes, and we also wanted to make sure that our listeners also feel like they can reach out to us. That's really what we wanted to make sure that we express to everyone as well, because
yes, that's what we forgot. We're gonna get personable. Yes,
well, right. And then just like in general, like just reaching out to us, whether you want to DM us on our Instagram, which is at Our Story Goes On Podcast, or even email. We have our email on the Instagram page as well.
Yeah.
So, but it is Our Story Goes On Podcast at gmail.com. So, just like giving us the feedback or hey, like we want to maybe come on as a guest, or
right. And if you want to even for us to even cover a topic, for us to cover something for you that you may be struggling with or may want to have our aspect on it, like we're happy to do that. So please reach out to us. Please engage with us. Definitely. And yes.
Mm-hmm. So we're definitely excited about that.
Right.
But yeah, and so obviously this season is still going to be all about mental health, but again, putting a little bit more of us into each episode. We were babies last season.
Yeah. Now we're toddlers. We're crawling now. We're crawling.
Right. We're not like veterans. We're definitely still very new to this and everything. Yes. But a lot of it was, I think, wanting to make sure that we got out there first, which I'm so grateful for it, because even I don't know if you pay attention to the emails, Joe, but I get them straight to my phone because my email's open already. Mm-hmm. But like we were still getting downloads, even off season, if you will. Mm-hmm. So, and I know that doesn't necessarily mean that the downloads meant that, because I know downloads are different than like when people actually listen.
Right.
But I was still getting those notifications from the podcast portal or whatever it is that you want to call it, the website that we upload to. And I was like, oh, that's still pretty cool. You know, like we're still having people download and listen, and that way we can continue to get the word out, and obviously like, with all the new topics and stuff.
That may have been Zira's mom. I asked her to listen to our podcast. I'm just kidding. But she did listen to it, and we appreciate Shout out Zira's mom.
Yes. Yeah, we had some international listeners last year too, because it's cool. It'll break down where people are listening from.
Yeah.
So I'm like, we had some people up in Germany. Like, okay. I'm like, okay. Where else? Okay. I do have a friend that lives in Switzerland, so I'm like, I wonder if it's him. I wonder if he's just like jumping from, different countries and listening to us, which is a possibility. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool too. So,
but that is all, guys. We are so excited, like just really excited and ecstatic. And we're going to end with our affirmations. Cindy, you want to give it to them?
Are we done already?
Are we?
I feel like that was so short. Yeah.
Oh, snap. Okay. Okay, so yeah.
Well, I think in terms of like the topics that we have, like I think a lot of it is we're still like going to continue with the obviously, like I said, still with the mental health. Like that's definitely not going to change. And I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that too, because at the end of the day, this is what we're here for, to advocate for communities of color in mental health conditions, diagnoses, symptoms, or whatever it is that you want to specifically call them. Right. But I think as well is a lot, because I'm trying to remember, I don't remember each topic that we had last season.
Yeah.
But we talked about like
a lot of good ones. We had depression.
Yeah, we talked about depression, anxiety, and then I think a lot of it, the way that I'm looking at it, or is that it was very broad. So like, and that was fine. You know what I mean? Like we're like, okay, we want to do depression only, anxiety only, self-esteem / body image. But I think this season we'll probably go into a little bit more depth about specific anxieties, right? Or specific depressive symptoms or conditions, because it's like a whole array of different things, right?
Yeah.
Trauma is definitely one that we will be talking about this season as well. Did we talk about trauma last season?
We did, but briefly, like broadly. Like I feel like our last season was more like of us getting the swing of things.
Right.
Also, like giving them like definitions. Like we did a lot of like not
Right.
textbook, but a lot of stuff that we just wanted them to understand what it was, because there's such a stigma behind mental health. So I feel like this season we're really gonna break it down for them and like really get into like the nitty gritty, and also like apply it to us as well. Like what we have going on. Well, we're not gonna talk about people. I mean, I'm gonna try not to talk about people.
Right.
But people who we know have experienced other things, and our guests too can also attest to that, and like you know bring into our show what we want to portray to you guys.
Right. So definitely. And for me too, I have because I have now my advanced licensure too, because that was a long time coming.
Yes.
So I now have my LPC as well, which is not, I mean, in terms of what I can do with that, it's hopefully my dream is to open up my own practice one day now that I have that. But yeah, I mean, it's just like a lot of that kind of stuff in terms of the topics, and making sure that we are just reaching out to a lot of different people as well, because that's really what mental health is about. It's just because everybody, I don't care what anyone says, one way or another in their lifetime has had a mental health issue.
Okay.
Because it's just impossible to not. And just because you may have gone through something short term doesn't mean that you never went through it, because that's what it is. Like, I think the word mental, unfortunately, has already been stigmatized in itself.
Yes.
Right?
Sure.
Because
and crazy,
right,
and
crazy,
bipolar, and all these other words that we hear that are so negative. Mental health, one of my favorite things from our last season was when we had our guest on there, Adonis.
Shout out to Adonis.
Yeah, shout out to Adonis. And he said mental
best.
health is as simple as, how are you today? Like, how are you doing today?
Right.
Like, we don't, and I think that we also need to shout out the guys too, because we as females always, I feel like, ask like, how are you doing today? Like, what are you going through? Like, we as females among each other, we do that. Like with our friends, like we know that we have to check in with our friends. We have to check in with ourselves. We know that. But for guys, I feel like they don't get the opportunity, or they aren't asked as much, how are you doing today? You know what I mean? So I think that we also have to get down to the bottom of that. That has to be like a thing. We have to bring on one of the guys. Out,
right?
You know?
That's a really good point. And because it's more acceptable, quote unquote, that women can have emotions, and women could check on each other, and I'm not saying that every single male is out there. I have certainly seen more in terms of males coming out and trying to be like, no, I'm not okay, or yes, I need help. So it's definitely coming out a lot more on that. But yeah, like Adonis from last season, which we'll probably have him on again, because that talk with him was incredible. But it's just about, how are you doing today? How are you feeling? So, but again, it's also about understanding that if you are feeling a certain way, is that something that you feel that you should talk to somebody about? That's a lot of it too, right? Even me, as I'm a therapist, and I have anxiety, and I honestly didn't know I had anxiety though until I got into the field. I'm not gonna lie. And it's not because someone, like a professor, told me, or I'm like, oh, this, you know what I mean? But it's more just like kind of going, as you get older, you start noticing things about yourself as well.
Right.
And I'm very open about that, because it's just the way it is. And there's anxieties also, it runs in my family. And so for me, I never feel ashamed about sharing things about that. Not like on my personal Instagram page. I won't just like write out like, hey, I have anxiety, but I'll usually share things because it's real. And it's the same thing as if somebody were to have diabetes or break their foot. Right. No one is ever really ashamed of saying like I'm wearing a cast because I broke my foot, right?
Exactly. And if something's wrong with your foot, you notice immediately something's wrong with my foot. So you're like, what's wrong with me? But when we deal with things that are happening internally that don't hurt, or they don't like feel physically like uncomfortable, like we think that it's just like, what's wrong with me? Right. But in a longer, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. I don't know why I said longer, but in an array of things.
Right.
It's really, I just need to get stable. Like, I just need to get, like, a balance on my mental health, on how I'm doing today, on how I'm feeling today, on, like, even expressing that. Like, I think that even expressing it is a problem sometimes to people, because they're like, oh, well, I feel really sad today, but I don't want to be sad because the world tells me I need to be happy all the time.
Right.
And that's an issue. Like, the world is literally telling us that we need to be happy all the time, and that, like,
have your
everything's a
stuff
party,
together.
everything needs to be so put together, and that's really not what it is. Like, there are days where we're going to experience sadness, there are days where we're going to experience pain and hurt and things like that, and we need to be equipped or have the resources or have the, you know, the
support, to be able to be like, you know what, F this. I'm not okay today. And that's another thing too with calling out of work. It's like so crazy to me that most of the time, if I call out of work, it's because I'm just like, I need just a day for myself. And that's really like, and especially, it's crazy though. I'm a therapist. I work in an outpatient agency. And even there was like a day and I don't usually call out, especially because now that I'm working from home still. Everybody heard my issues with working from home last year, and it's still here. Yeah. I am still working from home, and I just needed a day, and I called out whatever, and I still can't really tell my boss, hey, I need a mental health day. I probably could, and he'd be like, fine, because that's just how he is. Like, he's very laid back. But even me, I'm like, how is that going to sound if I tell him that?
Right.
Because then I know he's going to say, are you okay? What's going on? I'm just like, no, I'm fine. You know what I mean? But being a therapist, sometimes it's a lot, especially when you're working from home. And now my safe space is now my workspace. Right. And I'm listening to children and adolescents all day, and it's a lot. So I think a lot of that has changed. And even during the pandemic, I think that's really important too, to address that. Depression and anxiety skyrocketed during this time. And it's still, like, we've definitely come a long way, but
I have always been the one to say that everyone has mental health issues. I'm not going to say I told you so, but I'm just going to say that I feel like the pandemic has really helped, like, a little bit in destigmatizing mental health, because now so many people are experiencing it at such, like, vast and high rates. And like, I was here before you guys, and I could not get into a therapist appointment for a year and a half. Like, that's ridiculous. Right.
There's a lot of people who made that joke. They were like, you weren't depressed before the pandemic? Like, what do you mean? Like, now you know you're depressed? Like, a lot of people said that, and that's what was so funny, because I did see that joke. Like, there was a comedian that said that, like, I'm president of this club. What do you mean you're here now?
Right, okay.
I've been depressed and everything.
That's what I'm saying.
And not saying that those people who did experience depression and anxiety during the pandemic, of course, it's not like we're trying to reduce your experiences or anything like that, but you do bring up a point. It's like, maybe you just didn't realize that you had that kind of stuff before, and now, like, you're forced to be at home, and you're forced to not see your friends, and now you're forced not to go out with them anymore, right? Because a lot of people also avoid their feelings,
and you're forced to deal with yourself, and you're kind of forced to kind of become emotionally intelligent, because all you have is your emotions. Like, when I experienced the pandemic, I don't think that I learned about myself in ways that, like, wow, I don't even really like myself sometimes. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you wake up in the morning and, like, you'll have an attitude or something, or, like, and it's just like, no, this is not okay. Like, I really have to get to the bottom of this. And I mean, I took the time to do that during the pandemic, when I wasn't able to go to school or work and things like that. Like, I did take the time to, like, kind of explore these different feelings that I was feeling, like, whether they were conflicting or they were kind of hateful to myself. Like, you know, like, we need to be able to do that every day, because if we don't, then how are we going to get to, like, the point of loving ourselves and the point of, like, happiness, like, where we can experience a sad day and know that it's okay, that it's just a sad day, it's going to get better tomorrow. You know what I mean? Right. So I think that that's, like, really powerful and important. So
So I mean, a lot of these different things, it's just, again, the changes that are coming in this season is just really about making sure that we continue to address mental health, but in a way that's we just want to be more, I guess, available to our listeners and letting them know that, hey, like, you can reach out to us, but let me rephrase. This is not a replacement for therapy.
At all, no.
Like, we are here to do this podcast because Joe and I are both passionate about mental health. I mean, I'm a mental health therapist. I have to be passionate about it, right?
Oh, and I'm crazy.
Stop it. We just talked about that.
I know we did talk about that, but I have a mental health issue.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and so it's just understanding that this is a support for people, and to understand, like we said in last season, like, you are not alone. And I think what better way to hear it from two young, beautiful women.
Okay.
So either way, we are super excited, and we want to hear everybody's feedback, and
we want you guys to grow with us.
Right, like, exactly.
Grow with us. Mm-hmm. You know, we started crying with our first, like, we gave birth. So now we're like crawling.
Right.
So we just want you guys to get with us.
New things coming, and we're so excited. So
I'm going to do the affirmation.
Yes, we're going to close out with an affirmation.
And it is, new things are coming to light and blossoming.
Amen.
Okay? So
that's what we have.
Yes.
New things are coming.
See you guys next time.
Yes, see you guys next time. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye.